Yeah, I'll go ahead and share it with you when it's done processing. All right, great. So we're going to cover power tools for journalists. Again, my name is Michael Grant, teaching fellow, and I'm based here in Menlo Park. And that's just right down the street from Google, and Facebook is definitely my neighbor. So just a word about the Google News Initiative. We were on a 50-state U.S. Teaching fellow tour. There's 2 teaching fellows here in the U.S. I am one of them. The other one is Maggie Farley. And she takes care of the Northeast and the Midwest, and I take care of the West and the South. So Google is on a mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible. You'll notice that this ethos is definitely translates throughout a lot of the Google product line, and a lot of our goal is to help people find information. And in the case of journalists, we really want to help them, find and organize their information. So the News Initiative is sort of an umbrella at Google, and it has a number of different initiatives, but each of those initiatives is in place to build a stronger future for journalism. So I represent the Elevate side of this initiative, and so I want to elevate and strengthen quality journalism amongst journalists, right? So I teach that. But there's also other initiatives. So one of them involves the evolution of business models for sustainable growth. And so there are grants that are available for newsrooms and journalists to apply for. We call these the challenges or news challenges. And then we also want to empower news organizations through technological innovation. And so Google has built tools, and some of those are existing tools, but we're also building new tools that we think journalists can find very useful and practical. So our agenda today, we're going to cover 5 topics. The first would be advanced search. Next, we'll check out verification. Then we'll visit Google Trends, visualization, and then we'll end off with Backlight, our very new tool that I think you all will find very useful. So advanced search. The common facts of today are the products of yesterday's research. And we at Google know that it's really core to be able to surface research, right? And we know that information is shared by companies, corporations, journalists, researchers, universities, and so on. And so we know that we wouldn't have much of a job if these things weren't available, and if information weren't so important, but it is. And so these 2 gentlemen set out to build the Google search engine in a garage at Stanford. They wanted to create a perfect search engine that should understand exactly what you mean and give you back exactly what you were looking for. And that's a direct quote from your page. So Google search has come a very long way from its the early days of the 2000s. And it used to be blue links on a screen with a little bit of descriptive text. And then it started to evolve. The team started understanding more about how users are searching, or trying to understand a little bit more about how to be more useful. One thing that you'll notice at Google is that we definitely roll out products early, and sometimes early means under tested. but oftentimes we want to know a little bit more about how to make it more useful. And so you'll see these betas or alpha phase applications every now and then. And I encourage you to go ahead and try those out from time to time, because it does help us build products that really do help people find what they're looking for. If we fast forward to today, not only are people using search on desktop devices, but they're also using it on mobile. And part of what we've done in recent years is to help Google search be a more visual tool for finding what you're looking for. And so on the left, these might be subtle differences, but on the left, you can notice that most of the links you're seeing, they still are those blue links, with a little bit of context like date or how long ago posted. But on the right, you're starting to get a little bit more information. So visually, you can see the logo of a trusted brand, for instance. Or if you really pay attention here to the thumbnail image, which is not present on the left, you will see here that there's a lightning bolt, and that signals that it's an AMP story. So you can expect as a user that when you click on that story, it will load really fast and it'll be really easy to get to that story. Now these, you can see that these information are contained. Hold on, we'll take a pause here so I can let someone in. Great. Okay, so information is contained in these cards, right? They're like rich text cards. But I want to tell you a little bit more about how they work. So websites can signal to Google the kind of content that they have in their page. And so we talked a little bit about articles, and you can see that articles are one thing that appear in Google results. But you can also notice that there are recipes, and you can tell Google things like, hey, I have a video as part of my recipe. And hey, we also have reviews. And so Google will know to translate those star ratings on your site into something that fits into a template in a Google search. All right. And so this is also true of reviews, or if you have an app, right? So in this example here, far right, you can see that this is a Goodreads app, and we're communicating that, hey, it's installed on your device, and it has a rating system and a rundown of what this review is about. So what powers the ability to translate to Google the kind of content that you have in your page is called Schema. Now this is rich text markup that's behind the page. This is kind of what it looks like, and this is about as technical as I'll get this whole entire presentation. But it's a good thing to know, because if you have, say, a WordPress site, or you have access to your development team at your place of employment or your publisher, you can say, hey, I think we should leverage the power of Schema to communicate the depth of our articles or the kinds of components we have in some of the articles. And that way, when users search and they see your content among other content in a search, it can be contained in a more visual format, like shown here. All right, and if you wanted to check and see what the structured data looks like on a web page, you go to the structured data testing tool. This is a URL to it, and I should note that at the end of this presentation, there will be a form or a link to a survey. It's only 3 questions, but when you complete it, the confirmation email will have a link to all of the resources that I share in this presentation. So if you want to get to this tool and you don't get a chance to catch everything that we share, you will be able to revisit this video, as well as get your hands on a PDF that has all the resources. So let's talk a little bit more about this Google search engine. So on the left, you're noticing kind of a pretty standard thing, right? Like if you searched election 2020, you'd get a roundup of results. But one thing I want to point out is the Google Knowledge Graph. So on the right here, we can see the panel, a close-up of the panel that sits next to the Google search results. And the knowledge graph is basically what Google understands about what users are searching for, or about a topic or a term that it's familiar with. It's able to understand things like JFK is John F. Kennedy, and it can sort of round up all of these things that it thinks you might find helpful in your search. So you'll notice that those knowledge graph panels will pop up from time to time when you search a particular topic that we're very familiar with. Also, you'll notice that when you search certain terms, I totally spelled coronavirus wrong there. But when you search for certain terms and on display of results, something like a huge event like coronavirus, we were able to create a project inside of the Google search that rounded up a lot of resources about how people or scientists or the general public can stay more informed about what was happening. So you'll notice that there are other areas that are not just search results, but a compilation of really useful data or information that we've compiled around a particular topic. So that's a very special project that happens at Google, and you'll see these from time to time. Now, sometimes when you search, you might not find exactly what you're looking for, right? Sometimes when you search, the results are a little bit cloudy, or you're getting things that you weren't looking for. So the way we can really push Google search to help us find what we're looking for are to use search refinements. And so I want to go down the list here. There's 5 that we'll talk about today, but there are many more. And by using these, you can filter out results that you don't want, or be more specific about what you are looking for. So the first one we'll talk about is using a minus sign. And so using a minus sign in your search can remove things that you're not looking for. So if we're looking for a Jaguar speed, but we don't want any results with cats, then you just put minus cats, and that should do a filter for you. Next, you can specify a site. So that means that you would be searching only that site instead of all of the similar terms that can be found around the internet. So by searching site colon, it has to be followed by a colon, and then the URL of the website without the www, you will get results that are very specific to that source. Next, we have related. So much like the site colon here, we're going to use related colon, right? And so what it's going to do is find similar sites. And this can be very helpful if you're on a beat and you know about one really good website that helps you find and source information, but maybe you want to find something else that that's similar, that hasn't been on your radar. Well, using related might surface sites that are sort of like one that you like to go to very often. Next up, we have cache. Now, if you're not familiar with cache, here's how it works. Your computer, when it visits a website, brings information down to your computer. So you might notice if you're offline or you're not connected to Wi-Fi, you can still look at a web page. That's because it's cached, or it stores a lot of the files locally on your computer. Well, Google is also caching websites that it indexes, all right? And so what happens is, if a web page goes down, you can still look at a cached version of that page. And so by using cache colon and specifying a URL or a website of your choice, you can look at previous versions of that page. This might be useful for journalists that maybe you're tracking a politician and they removed a, you know, a post off the website. This could be a place that you visit to find if you can still see an earlier version of that page. And lastly, we'll talk about file type. So file type allows you to search specifically for files on the internet. And that can save you a lot of time because oftentimes we'll have to navigate through websites and eventually find those downloadable files. But by using file type : you can search for files directly in your browser. So let's go through some examples to really help this shine through. So here's the example of Jaguar Speed on the left. And I can see that Jaguar Speed is giving me animals, like kinds of cheetahs and leopards. But if I include -cat, then now it's omitted all of those animals, and now I'm looking at the performance of a car, and you know that's exactly what I was looking for. It would also work in the reverse. So if I didn't want cars but I wanted cats, then I would put -car, and I would get more of a more refined search on the left-hand side. So let's look at searching specific sources, right? So if I wanted to only, okay, so if I did a search for Brexit, I'm getting tons of information, right? I'm getting tweets, top stories, the knowledge graph is showing me some other things that I might be interested in. But if I specify site : BBC, right? Well, now I'm getting only results that are related to BBC, right? So it's stories and other page links that might be useful to me. So that really filters down what we're looking at here. Next up, we have site : right? Okay, so if I search for the GDP of 2019, again, I'm getting a roundup, right? And there's tons of results here. But if I said I only want to search government websites, right? I'm not specifying which government website, but I'm saying only government websites. And now by typing .gov, right, the domain extension, now I'm only seeing government websites. So it's a broad search, yet it's specific, right? Now here's an example of related. So Getty Images, we all know that they're a trusted source of photography. But if I wanted to see sites that are similar to Getty Images, then I can say related : gettyimages.com, and now I'm getting more photo serving services. Again, I mentioned that we can search cached pages, and we have a friend called the Wayback Machine that I will make mention of a little later. But much like the Wayback Machine, we are able to look at cached versions of web pages. And so you would say cache : and the site of your choice. And if they're indexing with Google, the chances are that Google has cached versions of that page on a server that you can look through. And finally, expenses or files, right? So if I wanted an expense spreadsheet, I can type in expenses, but that's super broad. You know, this is a perfect example of getting a lot of noise in your search, right? Like it's broad and Google doesn't know what we're looking for. But if I specify that I want a file type of a CSV, well, now the chances are I will find lots of different types of expense spreadsheets in a specific format like a CSV. So you could put XLS if you're looking for Excel, or PDF, and so on. So that should be really helpful. Now, the power of advanced search is really not only in using these modifiers, right? We actually call them operators, but we're modifying our search, and we can use them in combination So one that I haven't spoken about is in title. And in title is simply the title of a web page appears in the browser tab. Pausing just a moment so we can get someone in. Admit. All right, jumping back over. Okay. Also, I should note that at the end of each section, I'll go ahead and pause for questions, and then we can move right along. But this is an example of using these in combination. And so in title just means that the title of the web page is something that you're very familiar with. You see it in the browser tab next to the little symbol icon of a website. But in the title, I want secret. And the site that I'm going to be searching is the CIA.gov. And I'm looking for a file type of a PDF. And what do you know? Here are several secret CIA documents that we're able to find on the internet through a Google search. So what I like to call this is an interrogating Google. So as a journalist, before we leave our seats, we might have some questions about what we're looking for. And by pushing your Google search, you might be able to find leads on information that you might not have otherwise found. Now, if it's hard for you to remember all of these operators or search modifiers, what you can do is just go to Google, type in advanced search, you land right here. And if you click that link, it'll take you to a form that looks like this. And the best way to go about filling this out is to read it almost aloud. So it starts off, find pages with, and then you ask yourself, do I want pages with all of these words, or this exact word or phrase, or any of these words, or none of these words, or this is really cool, numbers ranging from. This is really great for my business journalists. And it also has examples of how it's searching it. So, for all of these words, it's saying type the important words, right? And it has 3 different words. But if you want this exact word or phrase, it's going to hang it in quotes, right? And we talked about including a minus sign if you're looking to exclude specific terms. So this is a very helpful way to leverage the power of advanced search. And once you're done completing this, let's just say if we did the Jaguar speed and we did minus cat right here, right? When we hit advanced search, you'll notice that your search bar has the modified search in the search bar, and then you'll be able to observe your results. But I like to pay attention to what it spits out because it lets me know how to write it quickly and in shorthand. Another really cool tool is Google Alerts. I know a lot of journalists are already familiar with this, but if you aren't, the way that you would go and search for a topic or a term in Google search, you can put those terms here in alerts. And by creating an alert, you will be notified at the duration of your choice of when search results come in that you might be interested in. But the real power here, I think, and this is somewhat of a hack, is to take your advanced search, your modified search, and you can copy and paste it here. So now we can be alerted every time there's a new secret CIA document from the government. So that's a really cool way to leverage the power of it. And I just wanted to break down really quickly the way you set them up. So if you go to google.com/alerts, and let's say I wanted to be notified of vote by mail results, then I can specify how often, what sources, and so on. And then I would specify what email address I would like it delivered to. Additionally, it gives you an alert preview. So basically, you'd be seeing previews that look like this right in your inbox. All right, so I've got a couple more services that are related to search. We have a really exciting tool called Google Dataset Search. It's in beta, but it's a really great tool because it it's a compilation of pre-rendered data sets, right? Meaning they're already clean and ready to go. And so I encourage you to try this out. Let me just a second. All right. And so here's a quick preview. If I wanted to search Black-owned businesses and see what kinds of data sets are available for that, then I would search it. And then here I have a bunch of different results on the left. It lists all the different data sets that are available. And depending on the one that's selected, it'll give me more information about that data set. Also, I want you to notice the filter options here. So we can filter by last updated, download format, which is really great. You might use a program that requires JSON files or CSV, so you can specify a certain download format. And for a journalist on a budget, you can search free or paid, right? So, or you can filter that way. So maybe I want only free data sets, but it's so worth checking out. Next up, we have Google Scholar. You might notice that when you're searching in Google, maybe you know, there's a text that you have in your query. You might see in the results instances of Google Scholar. But if you go to the scholar.google.com web page, you're presented the familiar search bar here. But you'll notice that in addition to articles, you can also search for case law, and you can even track academics. And that's a really powerful feature because maybe you're, you know of an academic or a scholar, or you've seen one on a news program, and you're very interested in their work. Well, if they are sharing their research with the Google Scholar program, then you're able to be notified when they have new research available. And so that might give you a leg up in your research and reporting. And then we have Google Public Data. So this is really great. What I like about this is that it's a web application that is also embeddable. What do I mean by that? Well, you might be familiar with your data teams or data teams at other publications, and they have to build these data visualizations. But by going to Google Public Data, you're actually able to search for public data sets, and if there's one available or if it's listed in Google Public Data, you can then explore it right there in the interface, right? And so if we were interested in energy and production, we could explore this data set, right? And if we really like it, there's even the option to embed the visual into your website. So that's really great for evaluating a data set and exploring the story in the data. And if you find one, being able to bring that right to your readers in your own post on your own CMS. And then finally, there's archive.org. So I like to refer to this source as a way to have a meaningful conversation about how we've covered things in the past and how we might cover them today or tomorrow, right? And so it's really great to look back at say like elections from a previous year and say, well, how will we cover that this year? You could also do the same for, let's say, like the competition. How did they cover something? So this is archive.org, and these snapshots basically show you how many times they've visited and cached a page. So that's what this timeline is. It's just showing you activity for how often they visited a specific source. The sources vary, like how often they visit them. For big, well-known sites, they do it often. For lesser known, it might be a little bit more sporadic, but it's totally worth a visit. So that's advanced search. Thanos, would you like to go ahead and maybe source some of the questions that you might be seeing?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, let's turn it over to the participants here and see who has any question, who wants to take a lead. Alex, we don't hear you. You just need to turn on your microphone. Michael, I don't know. Do we need?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, good morning to everyone. Thank you, Michael. I'm here in the West Coast, like you are. Just a very quick question about the cache search. So then I understand that we, if you publish something on the internet, it will be always it can be always be searched through Google Cache, or am I wrong? Because I mean that you know that was surprising to me, that I thought that maybe you know, once you delete you cannot look it up again, or you know, just wondering as a
Yeah, there are a
journalist.
few stipulations with it. Yeah, that's a great question, and I get that one often. So let's just say I'm a publisher and I have a website and I index that website with Google. That lets Google know I have these web pages available for people to visit, right? And so if my site goes down, for instance, you can visit a cached page. Now, Google doesn't save all the caches for the total duration of the time that you've had your website up, but it does save cached versions of pages, right? So yes, depending on your website, right? Like it won't do it for a Facebook page because that's a platform that works completely different, or a Twitter page. But if you have a standard website, HTML, with CSS and maybe some JavaScript, a user can look at a cached version of a page, and it'll tell you how old that version of the page is. So it's totally worth checking out on your own to see, a previous version of a web page by using the cache colon.
And is there any way to delete it, or is it permanent then? Or like, could you request? I'm not talking personally, but I wonder, politicians or people that maybe wanna make up their background a little bit.
Yeah, so that's usually something that an administrator of a website would need to do. You can tell Google not to search your site, for instance, and not be included in like the crawl of the web that they do, right? So it's up to an administrator to say, hey, I'm going to flush this cache off of Google servers, and I no longer want to be indexed. So there are things that users can do when they're the admin of their site, but as far as the way the search works for Google, if that site has been indexed and that page was cached, then it will be available for a user to visit a previous version of that page.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thomas.
Yes, wait a minute. Okay, my microphone is working. Okay. My question is, sometimes I have to search in a page which is not exist anymore. This can I find such a page in an advanced search? Is it possible?
So again, if that page was cached, so sometimes, let's say a website goes down for a few days, right? Sometimes there's really big technical problems, or sometimes a page was removed because someone didn't pay the hosting bill. If that page was cached, yes, you can visit a previous snapshot of that page. And let me just mention that all of the functionality of the page may not be there. If you click on certain links to the page, those might not work, but it is more or less a snapshot of what was there on that page. So you will notice when you use this caching function of Google that there are limitations, and that's pretty expected, seeing that it's just a snapshot, an HTML view of that page.
Hannes, I have a question. This is Raj.
Yes, Raj.
Hannes? Yeah. Michael, I'm a lawyer, and sometimes when I have to check case law. Can that be done? Because unless you have a Lexis account, it doesn't allow you, right?
So I believe with Google Scholar, you are able to find court citations and things of that nature. Now, I'm not quite sure the depth. That's a really good question. And if you want to go ahead and follow up with me, I can figure out which, how much access you have. I don't think it's at the level of a LexisNexis, but it does allow for whatever is publicly available in a court, depending on jurisdiction as well. I think there's different access levels based on where you are or where you're searching. At least you're able to get the open public records from a court.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right,
Thanks,
great question, thank you.
Whoever has a question, I think, should just take the stage. Momoe, maybe? Momoe Ban? We don't hear you. Now you hear.
I don't have a question at this time. I will ask question maybe later. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else here who has a question for Michael? Michael, I do have a question for you. How do you think that, basically you are providing training to journalists from across the globe in the US and also foreign journalists now. Do you think that based on where journalists are based, they do have different expectations or different needs for any of these tools, including the ones that you presented today?
Yeah, so oftentimes, depending on your context, there might be services that are or aren't available. This is pretty well understood, I think, by the international community. So my goal, hopefully, is to get you close to the tools that you can actually use. And then if there's a question about a specific tool, I can direct you to the proper team member. What's really great about the teaching fellowship is that there are fellows around the world. I think there's about 30, give or take, in different countries. And so if you are in a locale that's close to another journalist that's a teaching fellow, then I'd be very happy to connect you with them, and they can help you push some of the Google products a little further for you in your region, or give you alternatives to certain tools.
Great. What do you think it's from your experience as a journalist, and given your background, extraordinary background in journalism, what do you think that these tools, including the ones that we present today, can be helpful in advancing the reporting and the actual on-the-field job and work of journalists? How have you seen, in your experience, these tools to be applied in your work as a journalist?
Absolutely. So advanced search, I think, is one of the core ones to start with, and I think that's why it's #1. Just because, we're always on really stringent deadlines. Information is oftentimes hard to find. So that's the one that we usually start with. But, depending on the product, I'll have examples from Backlight soon, or the visualization. Lots of newsrooms are using a tool that Google is supporting that helps journalists like you and me, who might not be developers or data visual journalists, right? Helps you to really build visualizations in a way that is comparable to what dev teams do. So there's something for, I think, just about everyone in all corners of a newsroom in this presentation. And the goal is to make sure that we explain the tools clearly enough that you can unlock the power and potential of each one of those tools.
Great, very clear. And the next step, the next training program, the next step for someone to become familiar with these tools is on what? We have the one 2 weeks later, but can you give us a little bit of overview?
Yeah, so you know, you'll notice in this presentation, for instance, that that we could spend upwards of an hour on each one of these tools, but we want to give you kind of an overview of what they are and how they work and the benefits of them. And then as we go, we can maybe spend a little bit more time in each area so that you really do get a full understanding of those things.
Great. Does anybody have any other questions?
I think, Michael, this was great. And like when you had a Google dataset search, you mentioned about like a business owner. Can I look like women-owned business, women and minority?
Absolutely. Yeah, so you're
how
going
do I
to
get
want
to
to.
the search?
Go. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Okay, how do I go to the church now? I joined a little late because I did part of it that day.
Let me.
So how do I go? Go to Google?
Yeah, you're
Google,
going to
go to
go.
that.
So
URL.
if you search dataset search, I know this is kind of long, but if you Google dataset search, it should be the first result.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, and then just treat it just like you would a Google search. Now let me go ahead and move on into the presentation. I know this was it. Is there a deadline of an hour on this, Thanos?
We can extend it like for 10 minutes, 1, 2 p.m. and 2 and 10 p.m. like for 10 minutes.
Okay, good. So why don't I take the rest of the questions at the end, and I can power through the rest of this. And also, I should note that all of the rest of this isn't quite as long as the advanced search.
Yeah, if you show us some backlight or visualization, that would be good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or
I'll
trend,
get to
like
it.
the protest and coronavirus.
All right, I'll get to it. So we know in verifying information as journalists, that has definitely been a challenge. And with the advent of Photoshop, we've always known that photos can be a challenge and how easily they're manipulated. GQ, for instance, had to remove a photo from their website because it violated their terms, right, or their photo terms, right? And so this was from a source, and they photoshopped women into a photo that, you know, of a convening of men. And so we also know that the Canadian Green Party, for instance, admitted to photoshopping this photo of their party leader holding a reusable cup as opposed to a plastic cup. I mean, as opposed to a paper cup. So when questions about photos, you know, come up, right? When the validity of a photo is in question, one place that you can turn to do your own research or due diligence is images.google.com. And what this is going to allow you to do is to perform a reverse image search. The way it works is all you do is put your cursor into the search bar. You'll notice that the search bar has a little camera icon. But what it allows you to do is to paste a URL if you already had the URL of an image that you have in question, or you can upload an image. Now this might be useful if you took a picture of a picture or a screenshot of a picture, right? Or you had somehow a copy of the picture. You can upload it here and Google would perform a reverse image search. But I also want to share with you scenarios of when you could also turn to reverse image search. So this photo has the hashtag Hong Kong, and we know that it's a Reuters photo. It's photo stamped, and it's from 2019. But a reverse image search would reveal that this was actually a photo from 2016 in France. So that is misinformation, right? But a reverse image search would show us, right? And it's not that the that you're seeing, hey, this is a photo from Reuters, but you can see, oh, I can see Reuters had this photo, and you go to visit Reuters to see that it's actually from France. So that's one example. Here's another one. We see a Twitter verified account. It's a picture of the rainforest burning from 2019. We all know that that's a really big deal tail end of last year. But if we reverse image search that image, we can see that this photo actually was shot in 2013, right? So it's misleading to show a photo in context as if it's the current fire and not in the context of previous burning. Here's another example, and you can use this in your everyday life. I was driving in Detroit on my way to a training. Here's a bridge that I went over, and I said, hey, I wonder if it can let me know what the location is of this bridge. So I turn to reverse image search. I upload a screenshot photo, and you can see the results are displayed in this way. Possible related search, Blue Bridge in Detroit, Michigan. Wikipedia entry lets me know that that it's called the Gateway Bridge, and it knows that it was in Michigan. Now that's pretty awesome, and it helps us get a pretty further along when we're trying to search for context around a location or an original source for an image. Now, one thing that's really hard for journalists to do is to verify video. And so in this example, I won't play the video, but it says India strikes back, India Air Force, and you know, there's a facility bombed in a video. For instances with video that you want to analyze, you can turn to a project called nvid-project.eu. You can Google search nvid project. And what it does is it takes the video and it breaks it into keyframes, right, individually. And then it'll reverse image search each keyframe until it finds you know, a similar instance of that image on Google. And so what we learned by using that application is that this video comes from a screenshot of the Apache Gunner video game, PC video game, right, from 2015. So oftentimes videos are repackaged to look like something that they're not. And this is a great tool to help you debunk or verify the validity of that claim. Another really interesting service to use is watchframebyframe.com. There's the URL. So by putting a YouTube link here, you can watch the video, but what it allows you to do is to toggle between each frame so that you can analyze and assess the differences between frames. Maybe there's a person who instantly appears, or the hand of a clock that turns back, or something. So it's up to you to sort of do your forensic due diligence on the sequence of frames, but it's a really powerful tool. Another one I'd like to share with you comes from Amnesty International. It's called the YouTube Data Viewer. And so what it does is it allows you to see the original post time to YouTube of a video. And that might be really important to figure out, like, when was the first instance of this video uploaded to YouTube. And you'll have to, you know, if you think about it too, when you capture video versus your upload time, there might be some latency there just because it takes some time to upload a video, or there might have been some time that passed before you uploaded the video. But this is still a very good tool to help you get a little closer to identifying more meaningful information about a video.
So Amnesty International is a big organization, and I know one of the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, who is like our, you know, godfather, like Martin Luther King. He gave us presentation. So the Amnesty USA is part of the international group, right? Because your website is amnestyusa.org.
Yeah, so I know that they are a big organization, and this is a U.S. Well, it ends in .org. I think this is just the part of the URL. So I don't think this really has any
Oh, okay.
context. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then here's another situation. You might get media, right? It could be a photo or a video that has zero information. And maybe you know through reporting a little bit of the context around the photo, the video or the photo. Maybe you know roughly the location. Well, using a tool like suncalc.org, I know this looks a little complicated, but what it's allowing us to do is to understand by location how the sun would cast shadows by time of day and location. And so you can study the asset that you have and do reporting around a place to figure out more about the location, time of day, and date. One very challenging issue for Twitter are bots, right? And we know bots are not humans. So if you wanted to know more about which accounts that follow your account or other accounts are exhibit bot-like activity, you can use this botometer tool. So you can Google botometer, but this is the specific URL. And it'll give you an estimate or a measure of how bot-like that account is. And this tool goes a little bit further. This is Hoaxy. And what it allows you to do is to see how tweets spread and how conversations start to cluster around interesting tweets. But we can also see, like, of those tweets, which accounts are bot-like that are sort of entering the conversation and perhaps disrupting the conversation. And that might be great for a news analysis piece. If you wanted to know more about maybe malicious behavior on Twitter, or maybe a sensitive issue that's being targeted by bot accounts. So that is a quick summary of verification. Let me just quickly run through these last three, and then we'll open up to more questions. So to quickly touch on Trends, this is one of my favorite products in the product line. But Trends is a tool that allows you to understand what users are searching for, and by volume, right? So you can examine topics or terms, and you can filter by time, location, and language. You can also do really interesting things with the data that comes out of Trends. Here's one example. So in these two examples, we have candidates. We have a time, right? The time is sort of going by. So over time, these candidates are going in and out of popularity in search. We call that a horse race. You could also visualize this data in a word cloud to show people what are the terms that people are searching for in relation to a particular subject. The Trends team also produces its own visuals for different subjects. So here we have a visual for candidates and how they're related. Or we have these embeddable Google Trends media where we'll do a roundup of trending searches around a particular topic, such as Game of Thrones. And in this example is a partnership between the Trends team and Rhythm of Food, but they're showing how food goes in and out of search, and the seasonality of that search, right? Now, when we go to Trends, this is what we're presented with. And the way it works is pretty simple. We can add a term here, a topic or a term, and then we can add comparisons to other terms. So here are two candidates, and we're just comparing how they fared over time. You can also filter by location. So this would be England over the past 12 months. over all categories, and this is web search. I want to break down a few other things about this interface to really help you use it. So one of the things that is really important here is what you can do with that information. You can download this data. You can embed this particular chart, or you can share it. So the way, if I were a journalist and I can see a trend or a breakout in the trend, I can email a link to this to my editor and say, hey, this is really interestingly picking up on trends and nobody's talking about it. Why don't I try to do a story about it? And they might say, yeah, this is super interesting, go about it. So that's one way you might go about it. And there's a lot more that you can discover about what's breaking out in trends by going to trends.google.com. All right, let's quickly talk about visualization. I won't go into how you can produce them, but I want to give you a snapshot of what's available to you. So one of the tools at Google that we have made available is Data GIF Maker. If you Google Data GIF Maker, you can very easily get to the project. And what it does is pretty simple. You enter a few values, and it will produce a visualization. And you have a few different choices of what form that visualization will take. All right, super plug and play, easy to use. And those GIFs can travel well in a website or on Twitter, for instance. But if you're looking for something a little bit more robust, then you can turn to Flourish.studio. Now, this is a really, really great data visualization application. And there's tons of templates under the hood. And some of them allow you to toggle. Some of them allow you to observe animation, right? Data over time, for instance. So there's a lot that you can do here. I won't go into how to use it just yet, and we can totally touch on that in another training. But what I would like to do is invite you to sign up for a newsroom upgrade. And if you can have your newsroom leader sign up for the upgrade, it will give your entire news organization access to Flourish Studio free of charge. All right. And obviously you can develop your own templates, do your own charts, publish them in several different ways. So it's a really powerful tool. I highly recommend you do it. So that's visualization. Now let's talk about Backlight. This is one of our newest projects. We have not officially rolled it out to the public. It is an invite-only product, and it was built alongside and with a journalist in mind. It allows you to run analysis on lots of documents at one time.
Very busy all day. Thank you.
So Project Backlight is what we're calling this.
I cannot talk right now. Thank you.
And it allows you to quickly search through thousands of documents. And the way it works is pretty simple. You as a reporter, let's say you do FOIA requests and those requests came in, but now it's time for you to read through, hundreds of documents. Yes, you probably should read through as much of those documents as possible. But what's really been hard historically is being able to organize and sort through those documents in a way that's easy. And so this is where this tool Backlight comes in, where you're able to not have to use those sticky notes and highlight everywhere, but you can simply search in the way that you would search, Google. You can search in your documents and find very interesting information. The file types that we support currently are PDF, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, plain text, images, emails, and even audio files. And when you get into Backlight, you get a snapshot of all your documents. So right here, you'll notice that there's 530,000 JFK assassination records. And by searching here, you can filter. You can also filter by indexed categories that it already understands about what's mentioned in the documents. So by default, it already indexes people that it notices in the documents. It indexes organizations, and it also indexes locations. And when you click on, say, John F. Kennedy and FBI, and let's say Miami, then you're able to search within a filter of that search. I'll go ahead and demo it really quickly. Uh-oh. So here in Backlight is what you see. These are your collections that you can round up on your own. But there's also collections because we have a relationship with Document Cloud and Center for Public Integrity. But I'll just go to JFK assassination records. This is already something that Backlight analyzed, but I'll go ahead and just quickly show you that there's tons of people here. By hitting show more, I can even search through people that are here. I'll just hit JFK. Now it's filtered by JFK. We're down to 17,000 records. I'm going to hit Federal Bureau of Investigation as an organization. Now every file that has JFK and FBI in it will be here. And I can see that there are now 15,000 records. But if I wanted a specific location like Miami, now I'm seeing 2,820 records. Give me just a second. Uh-oh. All right, so now that I can see how that I'm down to fewer records, let's just say I want to search for weapon in this filter. Now I'm seeing 612 documents that have mention of JFK, FBI, and location of Miami with weapon involved, right? But it also understands that weapons are arms, right? Or, you know, weapon is, let's see here, guns. I'll just click on this here. And you'll see that it's able to also recognize images and files. It recognizes handwriting. It leverages OCR technology. And it's just really powerful. So that's a really quick snapshot of Backlight. Let's just quickly talk about use cases. So because we built this alongside journalists, we've had them try it out in real time, or you know, for breaking news and reporting instances. One example is the FBI. I'm sorry, the Baltimore Sun was able to do new reporting in the records of the MLK assassination to see that federal agents blamed MLK for a nonviolent movement in Baltimore and other cities. So that's new reporting. The Washington Post was able to take the Mueller report and put it into Backlight so that they can search it really quickly. And they also took his remarks before trial began, so that they could reference real time and fact check as exchanges were being made in the courtroom. So getting access to Backlight is pretty simple, and this is very special because by being a part of this training, we're inviting you to sign up for Backlight. So if you can take note of this URL, goo.gle/getbacklight. That's going to lead you to a sign-up sheet. And then every week or so, or I'd say every couple weeks, the product manager for Backlight is letting journalists in there. So it might take a little time before you're accepted or admitted into the tool, but you can get in there. And if you have any questions or wanted to check your status, you can always email me, grantmichael@google.com.
What
So
is
that was
email,
Backlight.
Michael? Can you repeat the
Grant,
Michael?
yeah, Grant.
Oh,
Michael.
Grant Michael. Okay, your last name first. You're from the
Yes.
Google Newsroom, right? Yep.
Yep, google.com.
Yeah, google.com. Okay.
All right. So again, I want to let you know that that you are able, like, there's lots of links here. There's lots of tools that we shared with you. Some of them we can only fit so much in an hour, but by giving us feedback, there's only 3 questions, should take you less than a minute. Visit this URL. You can take note of it. But once you finish that this feedback survey, you will get a confirmation email with a link to a PDF that has tons of resources for you, including ones that we weren't able to include in this presentation. All right, and I can share this with Thanos as well.
Yep.
And then finally, there's if you wanted to go ahead and level up a little bit more, you can go to g.co/news training. And this is a free online training area of the Google News Initiative. And we have topics like investigative journalism, environmental journalism, data visualization. So there's a lot of different courses that you can take. And there's really there's a nice certificate at the end. So once you pass your quiz, you can download those and share them on LinkedIn or share them with your boss. And then again, these are all the ways that you can get in touch with us. So newslabsupport@google.com. Again, my email is grantmichael@google.com. G.co/news-training is the training website. And the News Initiative is a really great website to follow for all the latest developments from the Google News Lab. I'll leave it on my thank you slide because my information is here if you want to get in touch with me. And at this time, I can open up to questions, but I just want to say thank you for letting me share these tools with journalists around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Questions? Do we have questions?
I have a quick question from Michael. You mentioned about the word cloud that you showed us under the, before visualization, you talked about the word cloud. So,
so that was just,
or do I have to go to wordart.com to create?
Oh, so what I was doing was showing you how news organizations have used the data that you can download from what is it? Oh, yeah, from trends.
Oh, from
so
Google
just to,
okay.
Yeah, so here's a quick example. I'm in trends right now. I have 2 topics, protest and protest.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that might seem a little weird, but right now I can compare protest, the topic that is searched in California over the last 7 days versus New York in the last 7 days.
So both the trend lines. Okay.
Yeah, and then this little download right here is how you would download the data for that. And it downloads as a CSV.
Wow, okay.
Got it?
Yes.
So you're going to use that data in order to do things like a word cloud or the horse race, right? I showed that data viz. So there's lots of different things that you can do with data once you have it.
You kindly show the word cloud? I'm a data scientist. That's why I'm asking a lot of questions. I'm a professional.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they, did it. But one thing you should also know is that it's very limited in trends. Like we only give you 5 categories. However, the trends team will if you contact our trends team, they will give you let's say the top 100 terms, and the data is normalized and indexed, but it's also doesn't include like user information. So but yeah, so you could totally reach out to our trends team and say, hey, for this topic, I would love the first 100 most popular terms, and you can expect to get a spreadsheet from them.
Great. Michael, are we going to, I think that we will, but I'm just asking to make sure, are we going to be able to have this PPT and to share it with the participants after the training program is over? And we have this PowerPoint?
Yes. So I will go ahead and once we close this meeting, I will email you a link or the actual file to this presentation. I've been recording.
Great. And we will also be able to have the video, right? For
Yes.
those who were not able to attend. Great. Excellent. I don't know if we have anything else to add. I think, Michael, from your end, or just to renew our appointment with you and Mikey in 2 weeks from now.
Okay, wonderful. Here, I'll stop presenting now
For your time.
so I can see all your wonderful faces.
And thank you for
so
your
much.
professionalism and for your time and all of your, dedicated and committed work that you've been doing to support the, the modern journalism in this way of using these modern tools that make sense and change a lot of the way, the traditional way journalism is being doing. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Thank you, Mike. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, is Dennis there? Hello.